The Old and New Testaments weren't composed at once. They were written over an extended period by various authors. It's really important to recognize that this process involved numerous changes and edits. Understanding the Bible's true history is crucial for appreciating its complexity and development. We need to explore how these texts evolved into their current form. Now, concerning the Old Testament's origins, Hebrew priests initiated its recording during the Babylonian exile. This era was pivotal in shaping the early texts. Also, for a considerable time, stories were passed down orally. There was a rich tradition of oral transmission before the texts were written. This implies that the narratives evolved through generations. Furthermore, the Book of Genesis was completed with influences from Mesopotamian narratives. This highlights the interaction between Hebrew culture and the surrounding civilizations, demonstrating that the Bible's development was not isolated. The recording of the Pentateuch. When we discuss the Pentateuch, it's important to acknowledge that its recording occurred much later, approximately 700 years after Moses' time. This raises questions about authorship and the accuracy of early traditions. The creation story, featuring Adam, is presented as the beginning of history, establishing a foundational narrative for the Old Testament. However, there's a possibility of forgery, with some texts potentially attributed to Moses when they were written by later authors. This is a critical point in understanding the complexities of biblical authorship. The editing of the Old Testament. Regarding the Old Testament's editing, there's a claim that priests destroyed existing historical records. This suggests a deliberate effort to reshape the narrative. Subsequently, a new history was created, emphasizing the relationship between God and the Hebrews. This was likely done to consolidate religious and political power. The emphasis on strengthening national identity meant highlighting the greatness of the Jewish people. This was important for their self-understanding and their place in the world. Turning to the New Testament, for about 30 years after Jesus' death, the stories about him were primarily passed down orally. This period of oral tradition is crucial for understanding the development of the Gospel narratives. The Gospels began to be recorded from the 60s AD onward. This transition from oral tradition to written texts marks a significant change in how Jesus' teachings and life were preserved and transmitted. The New Testament canon was established over a lengthy period. This canonization process involved selecting which texts were considered authoritative and which were not, reflecting the early church's evolving understanding of its scriptures. The Gospel of Mark is recognized as the first gospel to be written. It served as a foundation for the other synoptic gospels. It's believed to be based on Peter's testimony. This connection to an eyewitness gives it significant weight. It was likely recorded at the request of the Roman Church, indicating its importance for the early Christian community in Rome. However, parts of the original text were later changed or deleted. This raises questions about the text's integrity and the reasons behind the alterations. The Gospel of Matthew was specifically written for a Jewish Christian audience. This is evident in its emphasis on Jewish customs and prophecies. It strongly emphasizes the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies. This was crucial for convincing Jewish readers that Jesus was the Messiah. Yet, there's a view that Matthew's disciple Isidore is the actual author. This challenges the traditional view of Matthew himself writing the Gospel. Here's a breakdown. The author was Luke, a physician and a Gentile, and he was significantly influenced by Paul. It's believed to have been written around 82 AD, and a key theme is the portrayal of Jesus as a friend of tax collectors and sinners, highlighting his compassion and inclusivity. The Gospel of John was written later than the Synoptic Gospels. This later composition allowed for theological reflection and development. It emphasizes Jesus' divinity more strongly than the other Gospels. This focus shapes its narrative and theological presentation. There's a tradition that John's friend Nathan helped with the actual writing around 101 AD. This suggests a collaborative effort in its composition. It also contains much unique content not found in the other Gospels. This distinctiveness sets it apart and contributes to the diversity of the New Testament. The Book of Revelation was recorded by John while he was exiled on the island of Patmos. This context of persecution and exile is important for understanding its apocalyptic themes. There's a belief that parts of the original revelation were changed or deleted. This raises questions about the text's transmission and potential alterations. It is highly symbolic and uses many metaphors. This figurative language requires careful interpretation and adds layers of meaning to the text. Finally, concerning the New Testament's background, there's a strong emphasis on Jesus' divinity, which sometimes led to overlooking his humanity. The focus on the resurrected Jesus can overshadow the historical Jesus. The belief in Jesus' second coming influenced some early Christians to de-emphasize the importance of recording events for posterity. They believed the end was imminent. Ultimately, there's a need for a balanced understanding of both Jesus' humanity and divinity. This holistic view is crucial for a complete theological perspective.